What if I told you one of the most powerful status symbols in the world does almost nothing your phone can't already do? It sits quietly on the wrist, it tells the time, and yet some people will wait years for it, borrow money for it, insure it like a house, hide it in safes, and pay more for it than a Lamborghini. A watch is supposed to measure time. But in the luxury world, time is not what people are really buying. They are buying memory, they are buying identity, they are buying the feeling of being chosen. And sometimes, they are buying the fear that if they don't act now, they may never get another chance. In 2025, Swiss watch exports were worth about 24.4 billion Swiss francs, even as the number of exported watches fell to 14.6 million units. Fewer watches, enormous value. That contradiction tells us something important. Luxury watches are not just products. They are economic signals, emotional objects, and psychological mirrors. This is the psychology of luxury watches, not why they tell time, but why people pay fortunes to wear time. For most of human history, watches were tools. They helped sailors cross oceans, soldiers coordinate battles, pilots navigate the sky, and businessmen keep appointments. A watch was useful because time was useful. Then something strange happened. Technology made the mechanical watch almost unnecessary. Quartz watches became cheaper and more accurate. Then smartphones arrived, placing atomic-level time in everyone's pocket. By logic alone, the mechanical luxury watch should have disappeared, but it didn't. It became more desirable. The less we needed watches for time, the more we wanted them for meaning. A Rolex Submariner was no longer just a diving instrument. It became a symbol of adventure, discipline, and masculine achievement. A Patek Philippe was no longer just a complicated machine. It became a family heirloom, a quiet message that wealth could outlive the person wearing it. An Audemars Piguet Royal Oak was no longer just steel and screws. It became rebellion, a luxury watch that looked industrial, bold, and impossible to ignore. This is where the story becomes psychological, because the luxury watch industry did not simply sell objects, it sold stories that people could wear. And the more the world became digital, fast, and disposable, the more powerful those stories became. A mechanical watch is slow by design, it is assembled by hands, it beats with tiny parts. It asks to be wound, serviced, protected, admired. In a world of infinite screens, a luxury watch feels physical. In a world of instant updates, it feels permanent. In a world where everything is copied, downloaded, and replaced, it feels real. That is why collectors don't just say, "I bought a watch." They say, "I finally got the call." That phrase matters. Because in luxury watches, desire is often created before ownership even begins. You walk into an authorized dealer, you ask for the model you want, and instead of buying it, you are told to wait. Maybe months, maybe years, maybe forever. This is where scarcity becomes theater. The waiting list transforms a product into a quest. The buyer is no longer just a customer, he becomes a candidate, someone hoping to be approved, someone building a relationship, someone proving loyalty. And when the call finally comes, the emotion is not just happiness, it is relief, it is validation, it is the feeling of being selected from the crowd. That is one of the deepest psychological tricks in luxury. People value what feels restricted. Research on luxury consumption has shown that perceived scarcity can strongly influence consumer behavior because limited availability makes an object feel more desirable, more exclusive, and more meaningful. But scarcity alone is not enough. A random object can be rare and still worthless. Luxury watches become valuable when scarcity combines with story. Take Paul Newman's Rolex Daytona. At one point, the Daytona was not the untouchable icon it is today. It was a chronograph, a racing watch, a tool with a niche audience. But when Paul Newman's personal Daytona came to auction in 2017, the watch became more than metal. It became cinema, it became racing, it became American cool. It became the ghost of a man who wore it not as an investment, but as part of his life. That watch sold for $17.8 million, setting a historic record for a wristwatch at auction. The buyer did not pay that amount because the watch told time better. The buyer paid for proximity to a legend. This is nostalgia turned into capital. A luxury watch can make the past feel ownable. A son buys the watch his father wore. A businessman buys the model he dreamed about when he was broke. A collector buys the piece that reminds him of old Formula One, deep-sea exploration, aviation, cinema, or childhood images of success. Nostalgia is powerful because it gives money an emotional excuse. It says, this is not just spending. This is remembering. But another force is working quietly in the background. Status. Human beings are social animals. We constantly read signals: clothing, language, posture, cars, neighborhoods, accents, education, and objects. A luxury watch is one of the most efficient status signals ever invented because it is small enough to be subtle, but expensive enough to be understood by those who know. To most people, it may look like a watch. To the right people, it says everything. It says taste, it says access, it says money. But more importantly, it says membership. Thorstein Veblen famously described conspicuous consumption as spending used to display wealth and social position, and luxury watches fit that idea almost perfectly. In some cases, higher prices do not destroy demand. They create desire because the price itself becomes part of the signal. This is why discounts can be dangerous in luxury. If everyone can get it, it loses some of its magic. The object must remain slightly out of reach. Close enough to dream about, far enough to respect. That gap between desire and access is where luxury brands build power. But the watch market is not only emotional, it is financial. Over the last decade, certain watches began behaving less like accessories and more like alternative assets. People tracked prices like stocks. They joined forums, followed dealers, watched auction results, and calculated premiums over retail. The secondary market became part of the fantasy. A watch was no longer just something you wore, it was something that might appreciate, something that might protect wealth, something you could enjoy while it sat on your wrist. In the secondary watch market, certain models have often traded above retail because controlled supply, rarity, brand strength, and demand create premiums that buyers are willing to pay. And when prices rise, FOMO enters. Fear of missing out is not rational, it is emotional acceleration. You see a watch selling for $10,000, then $14,000, then $20,000. Suddenly waiting feels dangerous. The buyer stops asking, is it worth it? And starts asking, what if I never get in? That question changes behavior. It turns collectors into speculators. It turns passion into pressure. It turns watches into tickets for a moving train. This is how bubbles begin, not with greed alone, but with stories that feel too good to ignore. During boom periods, collectors convince themselves they are making rational financial decisions. They talk about production numbers, discontinued references, dial variations, celebrity ownership, auction trends, and brand heritage. But underneath all that analysis, something older is happening. The fear of being left behind, the fear that someone else will own the thing that should have been yours, the fear that your taste, your timing, your identity will be proven wrong by the market, and then the market shifts, interest rates rise, liquidity dries up, speculative buyers disappear. Suddenly the same watch that felt impossible to get is sitting in dealer cases. The same model that traded at a massive premium falls back toward reality. Knight Frank's Luxury Investment Index closed 2025 down 0.4%, showing stabilization after 2 years of losses. A reminder that collectible luxury assets can rise sharply, but they can also cool when financial conditions change. This is the hidden truth of luxury watches. They are emotional assets pretending to be rational investments. Yes, some watches hold value. Yes, some become historically important. Yes, some become million-dollar trophies. In 2019, a unique Patek Philippe Grandmaster chime sold for 31 million Swiss francs at Only Watch, becoming the most expensive wristwatch sold at auction. But those record-breaking stories can distort ordinary decision-making, because for every legendary auction result, there are thousands of buyers convincing themselves that their purchase is also an investment, when it may simply be a beautiful object with a powerful story. And that is not necessarily bad. The problem begins when people confuse emotional value with guaranteed financial value. A watch can be priceless to you and still lose money on the market. A watch can connect you to your father, your ambition, your first success, your personal taste, and still not be an asset in the way real estate, bonds, or businesses are assets. The deepest insight is this: luxury watches are not really about time. They are about control. People buy them because time itself is uncontrollable. We age, moments pass, people leave, careers rise and fall, markets move. Life changes faster than we can understand it, but a watch gives the illusion of holding time in your hand. It makes time visible, mechanical, ownable, a tiny universe of gears and springs that keeps moving because someone built it with care. For the wealthy, it signals status. For the collector, it signals knowledge. For the nostalgic, it preserves memory. For the investor, it promises security. For the dreamer, it becomes proof that one chapter of life has ended and another has begun. That is why a luxury watch can make no sense mathematically and perfect sense emotionally, because human beings do not only buy utility, we buy symbols, we buy stories, we buy objects that tell us who we are, who we were, and who we hope to become. The man buying his first Rolex after years of struggle is not buying steel. he is buying evidence. The collector chasing a rare Patek is not buying complications, he is buying mastery. The young entrepreneur searching for an Audemars Piguet is not buying time, he is buying arrival. And the billionaire bidding millions at auction is not buying a watch, he is buying immortality through association. In the end, luxury watches reveal something uncomfortable about human behavior. We like to believe value is objective, but value is often a story that enough people agree to believe. Gold is valuable because we believe it is. Art is valuable because we build meaning around it. A watch becomes valuable because craftsmanship, scarcity, memory, status, celebrity, and market belief all gather around a small object until it becomes bigger than itself. That is the real machine inside a luxury watch, not the movement, the meaning. So, the next time you see someone wearing a watch worth more than a car, don't just ask what time it tells. Ask what story it tells, ask what fear it quiets, ask what identity it protects, because maybe the most expensive thing in the world is not the watch itself, maybe it is the human need to feel rare, to feel remembered, to feel chosen. And if a tiny machine on the wrist can make someone feel like they own time, how much would they be willing to pay?